Hello, this is Maria Ortiz, and I'm gonna start a series of food and beverage videos that might be helpful for restaurant owners, also for employees that like to work in restaurants. First, I'm gonna be talking about when you first open a restaurant, if your restaurant has potential. What I see when I come into a restaurant, it's basically at the beginning where you park. Is there enough parking for people to come in? Possibly if you have a grand opening, a big party, and a special event, and if you have guests that are older, it's better that the parking is accessible. I live in Las Vegas. We have a lot of casinos. Our casinos are huge. Parking lots are a little far now. And there is always accommodations, of course. But if you have a restaurant in the city, I think a good possibility that it might be busy is that if you're close to a business center, if there is stores around it, even if there is restaurants all around you. So people is more tempted to go where there is more parking lot. That's my experience. I believe that if there is enough parking, there is less issues on people wanting to come in. Of course, we want to have accessible parking. Another thing when you come in, when people sit down and look around, is it pretty? Is it clean? Is it organized? Is it a nice atmosphere? Do you have music playing? What type of music? Is it loud? What's the smell in the restaurant? All those things are things that people look when they first come in. Other than that is your menu presentation. Is your menu laminated? Is it simple? Is it big font? Is it easy to read? How much lighting do you have in the restaurant for people that come in and look at your menu? Do you have any specials, happy hour? What about someone greeting people at the entrance? What about, and you don't necessarily have to have a hostess, but just to have someone looking, if they're coming in, even if you're not physically right there at the door, even if you only have one employee. I used to work at a restaurant where I was the only one, and I will tell people, please see yourself, and whatever it is, that is your decision on how you want people to be sat. If you want them to be seated like in a hostess environment, if the server can be the hostess, the manager can be the hostess as well. A server can multitask and do everything. It's not difficult. She can answer the phone, seat the guests, run the food, everything. In a lot of places only have one employee. So I'm not trying to run your restaurant understaffed. It's better that if you have enough people, but it happens to be where one person is alone. It is important that people coming in are greeted properly. At least acknowledge them. At least tell them I'll be right back. At least let them know that you know that they are there. Make sure they have a menu, even if you have to run a little bit for it, And I feel the best way of serving your guests is communicating what is happening. If you're by yourself, just let them know I'll be right with you, or I'm running this food. And if you need to have someone waiting while you're serving, or even taking the order, if someone is coming in at the door, you can also ask for a minute. People don't like that, to wait, especially when they're ordering or when they're very hungry. But if you communicate your needs, and that you let them know, they're not your only guest, and there's more people that need your help, they're understanding. Of course, you're gonna move fast. The best way of serving people is knowing your menu, knowing your system, knowing what your options are, knowing what you're out of, your 86s. What are you out of today? What is the special? And if no one is there to inform you, you just go by what it was the last day you worked. And then you ask questions, you ask whoever is working, hey, I was still out of this kind of meat. Do we have this dessert bag? And if they don't know, then you kind of are going to have to ring it in and then find out when they tell you we don't have it. That's basically it. They inform the table quickly, and you let them know what you're out of, what your 86s are. So I was talking about restaurant potential, so smell, parking, definitely how people is greeted. Other than how people is greeted, they're gonna be looking at your prices, and then they're gonna compare the portions. It is very important that the service is good, regardless how much your prices are. And if there is anything that needs to be accommodated, fixed, or changed, that the server can catch it. The server is the one person who's gonna be selling it for you, and the one person who's gonna be first hand at fixing whatever it is that is not either properly cooked, either putting in right, either misunderstood, either being disliked for any reason. It can be too spicy, it can be not well cooked, like it usually happens to steak. And as same as eggs is just like steak. People is very picky about it because the flavor is very different from one term to another one. So eggs are also treated like steak. I understand, of course, it's not the same price, but if you are a breakfast place where you are depending on selling eggs, it is important that your chef knows how to cook those eggs. Not just a steak, not just your fajitas, not just your omelets, but over easy, over hard, scramble, over medium hard. And there's gonna be those terms in between that it's gonna be a little bit hard, but once when you get it, once when you get the staff trained, then it's gonna get easier. Another recommendation that I have for you watching is that train your staff. If you hire people who you think they're very knowledgeable, but they work at another restaurant, and even if it's the same theme, if it's Italian or if it's Mexican or if it's American or if it's breakfast Asian or any type of food, if it's sushi, and are you familiar with the restaurant and you think they know, they need to learn your ways, they need to learn your system, they need to get an idea of what it is that is not on the computer. A lot of times we bring in open food, open liquor items because it's not there. And sometimes the menu could be confusing, could be options that are not in the computer. And there is always a way to bring it in, but you need to get familiar with it. Another one that is very important is that your people knows the food, that the people who is serving or running the food knows what they're serving. And a lot of times when we order special food, it's gonna have a toothpick with a different color, or the chef is gonna tell you what is the difference in between either the term of the food, or the plate that doesn't have spinach, or the plate that has no garlic or extra garlic, or whatever it is that they order, or no onions, a very common one. So it will be marked, and unless you're not communicating, then you're not gonna find out. Of course, the kitchen is going to be busy. Another of your priorities is going to be food temperature. Before comes out, it should be hot what is hot, and it should be cold what is cold. So sometimes restaurants have hot platforms where they keep the hot foods, but the salads should not go in there. They should be going separate. Either another window, either they hand them to you, and so you don't put the food at a wrong temperature because it's gonna damage the quality. And then also, if you don't have that, if you don't have a hot platform or light bulbs or anything that can keep your food warm, make sure to run it fast. Make sure to call your servers. A lot of restaurants have a bell that the chef will ring when the food is ready. If you don't have that, make sure you're communicating. Make sure you train your people in how to identify what it is that they're taking out. Also, make sure you know where they're going, if which table they're going, if it's a special request who ordered the food, because that could make losses with the food. Like either if the food is taken to the wrong person, either if it's not taken on time, or if it needs to be reheated. So it's gonna cause you struggles in the kitchen where if it's busy, they're gonna get behind cooking whatever it is that needs to be cooked. And it's so much involved in restaurants. I'm gonna be making a lot of more videos, but it will be many different topics: managing, training, cleanliness, food temperatures, what to look as far as hiring, what is important in hiring your staff and wanting to keep it. Take care. We'll see you soon. This is Maria Ortiz. I am a speaker, author, life coach, and I like to train. I like to teach people what I know that might be helpful. It's a way of extending my hand to others. And if it's helpful, I'm glad. Thank you. See you soon.